Well, each year at the Bear Nation celebration, we honor someone for a lifetime contribution to the school, and this guy is truly an Arkansas coaching treasure. Almost 500 wins, all at UCA. And I want to call on Natalie Shock to talk about Ron Marvel, who is just such a special man and has been so good to UCA.
He has been retired from the University of Central Arkansas for more than a decade, but he remains the winningest coach in UCA history in any sport. In his 24 seasons as head coach of the UCA Sugar Bears basketball program, Coach Ron Marvel won a school and state record 494 games. His final 3 UCA teams from 2002 to 2004 won a combined 73 games and reached the NCAA South Regional 3 times and the NCAA Elite 8 in 2003. Coach Marvel averaged 20.3 victories per season over his elite career and never once had a losing season at any level of coaching from junior high to high school to the collegiate level. To this day, when UCA Sugar Bear basketball is mentioned, the name Ron Marvel quickly comes to mind, and with good reason. Coach Marvel also coached tennis during his UCA career and was just as successful on those courts as he was in basketball. A native of tiny Coal Hill, Arkansas, he was inducted into the UCA Sports Hall of Fame in 2003 and has had 8 of his former players inducted into the UCA Sports Hall of Fame as well. Throughout his illustrious career, Coach Marvel brought class, dignity, and success to the programs he coached at UCA. He served as a father figure and mentor to all the student athletes he coached and was also an outstanding colleague and friend to all who worked with him here at UCA. Thank you, Coach Marvel, for all the success, recognition, and professionalism you brought to the University of Central Arkansas Sugar Bears.
How's everybody doing? What a great honor and privilege it is for me tonight to be able to introduce Coach Marvel. I was lucky and got to be on the ground floor of what Coach Marvel built here. Our class came in his second year, and we ended up being pretty good. We won 3 regular season conference titles. We won 4 conference tournament titles, while going 96-20 over our 4 years, with 10 of those losses coming our freshman year. We kind of got to put Sugar Bear basketball on the map, and I couldn't have asked for a better coach, mentor, second father, and friend than Coach Marvel. And we were all Miss Marvel's kids. She was the first lady of Sugar Bear basketball, and she took care of us like only a mother can. I know she's looking down on us tonight, and she's smiling. And if she was here, I promise you she would be leaning over to Coach right now and saying, "Ronnie, don't you get up there and mess this up." I was also lucky enough to have Coach Marvel on the committee that hired me to come back to UCA to start the softball program in 1996. I will never forget, after I had been here a few years, Coach came up to me and said, "Hey, we're colleagues now. You can call me Ron." I just looked at him like he'd lost his mind and said, "Okay, I'm sorry, but he's always going to be Coach." You can look at my phone tonight, and he is listed as Coach Marvel in my phone. Before I bring Coach up here, I wanted to share a story that I heard a few years ago that I think really fits. You know, back in the day when they used to build houses, they had big porches, as opposed to the houses that you see built today that don't have very big porches. I think the reason that they did that is so people would come down. You know, back then people always came down the road, the neighbors came to visit, and then you always saw people sitting out on the porch having a good time and visiting. You just don't see that today. Well, Coach Marvel, I'm extremely glad that you came down my road. I'm extremely glad you came up on my porch, because you have made a tremendous impact on my life, and I love you. And I'm so happy that we're going to honor you tonight in this facility that you and Miss Marvel called home for 24 years. Please come up. Okay, we got to get a picture over here.
Okay. When you reach my age, you start thinking a lot about the hereafter, and I'm kind of wondering what I'm hereafter. But anyway, I had this good friend, Forrest Gump. A lot of you know Forrest. But Forrest arrived at the pearly gates, and St. Peter met him there. And St. Peter said to Forrest, we really would like to have you go through the gates, but you've got to answer 3 questions before you can go through. Forrest kind of scratched his head and said, well, I'll think on it. And St. Peter said, the first question is, name the 2 days of the week that start with the letter T. And Forrest just thought on it for a minute, and he finally says, today and tomorrow. And St. Peter says, well, that's not quite the answer we were looking for, Forrest, but said, I can't tell you you're wrong. He says, let's go to the second question. He said, how many seconds in a year? And Forrest kind of scratched his head and he says, 12. St. Peter says, no, Forrest. He says, yeah, 12. He says, January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd. And he says, okay, Forrest, I got you. He said, that's not the answer we were looking for, but said, we're going to let you go on that. Says, we've got the last question, and it's the most important. He said, what? He said, what is God's first name? And Forrest says, oh, man, he said, that's the easiest one you've asked. And I learned that in Bible school. He said, Andy. And St. Peter says, Andy? He says, yeah. And he walked with me and he talked with me. And St. Peter shoved the gate open and he said, run, Forrest, run. One quick story about me and UCA. Sid Simpson was the athletic director here that hired me, and he was only here for 2 years. And Sid drove to Hot Springs one day and met me in Gulpa Gorge, if some of you are familiar with that area. And we sat down at a picnic table, and he tried to talk me into becoming the coach at UCA. And he told me a lot of things, but a couple of things that have stayed with me over the years that I've never really told anybody about was one of the things he told me, he says, you're the second coach. If I hire you, you're going to be the second coach that I've ever hired. And he said, I hope you work out as well as the first one. And so this was in 1979. And he said, I was the athletic director at Texas Western, and said I hired this gentleman to be my boys' basketball coach, and said he worked out real well. And he says, I'm hoping that you can work out like he did. Well, in 1985, this man came to the University of Arkansas as the head basketball coach, and it was Nolan Richardson. So I probably didn't work out quite as well as Nolan. But the second thing he told me, he asked me, he said, do you know what our mascot is? I said, no, sir, I really don't have a clue. And he said, our mascot is a sugar bear. And I said, oh, okay. And he says, does that bother you? I said, no, sir, it doesn't bother me. And he said, well, he said, it's kind of a joke at UCA. And he said, the one charge that I want to give you if you take this job is to make the term sugar bear respectable. And I think I did that. Thank you.